Let me remind y'all that Melania, the First Lady, a model, and when I say model, I'm not talking about Tyra Banks, Cindy Crawford, or Naomi Campbell level, applied for and was given an
What does one get when one stubborn woman rattles the very pillars of a strong family? Jasmine Crockett discovered the hard way when Barron Trump himself summoned the police on her. The moment she fidgeted with her mic and cleared her throat, while a heated House Oversight Committee hearing was underway in Tallahassee. The room became quiet, not in expectation, but because no one knew what to expect from there. Reporters stood at the walls, cameras and phones whirring as what was to be a mundane examination of post-presidency expenditures became something much more incendiary. Unfazed and serene in a blue blazer, Jasmine cracked open a manila folder as if it were a dynamite detonator. What began as a briefing on her responsibilities shortly disintegrated into a list of company names, dubious wire transfers and offshore accounts, some connected to Delaware shell corporations, others stemming from a private transfer in Palm Beach, a near fortnight prior to Trump's departure from office. Then came the turning point on page 3. She pointed to an invoice from Palisade Consults, a company with no office, no staff, but $9 million in government contracts pushed through. In the final 60 days of the Trump administration, as C-SPAN streamed live and Twitter exploded, committee members squirmed. A Republican from Texas tried to derail her, but Jasmine remained firm. "I am not here to perform," she declared softly. "I am here because accountability is not something you opt into." That clip went viral over 100,000 times within 1 hour. When the chair attempted to turn the topic, Jasmine remained firm. "If we continue to pretend power absolves corruption, then we're not a government, we're a club, and this nation ain't a club." And with that, her mic went dead, the room waited with bated breath, and she settled back as if she'd just tromped through a tempest. Outside the chamber, though, the true tempest was picking up momentum. Reporters descended in clouds, CNN was arranging for coverage, and teenagers on TikTok remixed her words to marching band rhythms. As Fox News portrayed her as yet another witch hunt, the records she uncovered, signed, sealed, and traceable, were difficult to ignore. By evening, #Trump files reached 3 million references. But Jasmine was well away from the hubbub, sitting down to dinner with her husband in Fort Worth, discussing next steps with her chief of staff. Then at 6:42 a.m. the next day, her phone vibrated. "You have to hear this," exclaimed her communications director, Laurel, playing a 36-second podcast clip of an angry host fuming about Jasmine, accusing the 45th president of money laundering live on television. Jasmine laughed. Circus works if the clowns keep showing up. But beyond the echo chamber, the ripple effect was real. TikTok and Instagram lit up with teens, students, and even barbershops analyzing her testimony, adding captions like, "She brought receipts with a capital R." Her quote, "This country ain't a club," showed up on t-shirts, denim jackets, and viral hashtags like #Crockett clocked. Even small coffee shops across the U.S. buzzed with spontaneous political talk. CNN broadcast the firebrand from Fort Worth. MSNBC supported her accusations with a veteran Treasury official. And Reddit flared with anonymous sources, an ex-accountant, and a contractor, who shared screenshots of memos that corroborated Jasmine's words. As right-wing media spun conspiracy theories, her silence spoke louder. Her staff instructed her to hold back, let the truth sink in. They'll stumble over themselves. They did. Fox News attempted to discredit her, then inadvertently legitimized one of her documents on live television. Her campaign picked up 160,000 new subscribers over 2 days, and her donation webpage crashed under traffic. And then, in a twist of fate, the unexpected happened. At 8:13 p.m., 72 hours later, the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office took a call. A young, nervous male voice said his name, Barron William Trump. "I'm reporting an unlawful breach of private financial information by a sitting member of Congress," he said. She named stuff that wasn't public. That's illegal, right? The dispatcher, caught off guard, filed the report as protocol. And just like that, the fire Jasmine Crockett lit had spread further than anyone had imagined. And it was only the beginning. What does one get when one obstinate woman shakes the very foundations of a stable family? Jasmine Crockett found the hard way when Barron Trump himself called the police on her. The instant she played with her mic and cleared her throat when an intense House Oversight Committee hearing was in progress in Tallahassee. The air grew silent, not in anticipation, but because no one had any idea what to anticipate from there. Journalists lined the walls, phones and cameras clicking as what was to be a routine accounting of post-presidency spending turned into something much more inflammatory. Calm and unruffled in a blue blazer, Jasmine opened a manila folder, like it was a detonator for dynamite. What started as a briefing on her role soon dissolved into a litany of company names, suspicious wire transfers, and offshore accounts, some tied to Delaware shell corporations, others resulting from a private transfer in Palm Beach just 2 weeks before Trump's exit from office. And then there was the moment of truth on page 3. She indicated an invoice from Palisade Consults, a firm with no office, no employees, but $9 million in government contracts rammed through in the last 60 days of the Trump administration. As C-SPAN broadcast live and Twitter erupted, the committee members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. A Texas Republican attempted to derail her, but Jasmine held fast. "I am not here to act," she asserted quietly. "I am here because accountability is not something you choose." That clip went viral more than 100,000 times in 1 hour. When the chair tried to deflect the issue, Jasmine held firm. "If we keep pretending power cleans corruption, then we're not a government. We're a club, and this country ain't a club." And with that, her mic was dead. The room held its breath, and she settled back as if she'd tromped through a storm. Outside the room, however, the real storm was gaining speed. Reporters swarmed in clouds. CNN was making plans for coverage, and teens on TikTok remixed her statements to marching band beats. As Fox News depicted her as another witch hunt, the documents she uncovered, signed, sealed, and traceable, were hard to shake. By nightfall, #Trump files hit 3 million mentions. But Jasmine was far away from the fray, sitting down to her husband in Fort Worth, talking next steps with her chief of staff. Then, at 6:42 a.m. the following morning, her phone buzzed. "You have to hear this," said her communications director, Laurel, playing a 36-second podcast clip of a seething host fuming over Jasmine, accusing the 45th president of money laundering on live TV. Jasmine chuckled. "Circus works of the clowns. Keep showing up." But outside the echo chamber, the ripple effect was genuine. TikTok and Instagram crackled with teens, students, and even barbershops breaking down her testimony, putting captions like, "She brought receipts with a capital R." Her line, "This country ain't a club," appeared on t-shirts, denim jackets, and viral hashtags like #Crockett clocked. Even tiny coffee houses throughout the U.S. hummed with impromptu political discussion. CNN aired the firebrand from Fort Worth. MSNBC endorsed her charges with a veteran Treasury official. And Reddit blazed with anonymous sources, a former accountant and a contractor, who posted screenshots of memos that verified Jasmine's statements. While right-wing media prostituted themselves with conspiracy theories, silence spoke for her. Louder. Her aides told her to stand back. Let the truth sink in. They'll trip over themselves. They did. Fox News tried to discredit her, then inadvertently legitimized one of her papers on the air live. Her campaign gained 160,000 new subscribers in 2 days, and her donation site crashed due to traffic. And then, like a twist of fate, something unexpected occurred. At 8:13 p.m., 72 hours later, the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office took a call. A young, nervous male voice said his name, Barron William Trump. "I'm reporting an unlawful breach of private financial information by a sitting member of Congress." He said, "She named stuff that wasn't public. That's illegal, right?" The dispatcher was surprised and filed the report according to procedure. And just like that, the flame Jasmine Crockett ignited had burned out farther than anyone had ever dreamed. And it was only the start. There was no violation, no law enforced, simply the ripple effect of truth striking power where it hurt. Barron Trump's call, instead of demonstrating wrongdoing, only served to highlight how distraught his family was. And the backlash didn't end there. As videos of Jasmine Crockett's address went viral on social media, the tide turned again when an unexpected voice joined the discussion, that of Charles H. Winther, a well-known legal expert who had counseled 2 Republican administrations. In an editorial entitled "The Law Backs Crockett Now, So Should the Committee," Winther, who had previously criticized Jasmine's oversight strategies, now came to her defense in clear language. She conducted herself lawfully and responsibly. His words cut deep throughout conservative legal communities, shifting the matter from partisan theatrics to one of institutional integrity. Jasmine read the article in stunned silence, underlining one telling sentence: "Oversight has no value if we criminalize its practice." Barron's silence, in turn, grew louder than any possible statement. Reporters started asking if he honestly thought something illegal was done. Why hadn't he made a formal complaint? Where was Trump's legal counsel? Why was there no follow-up? Someone close to the family blew off the cover that Barron may have gone rogue, perhaps even without telling Melania. Suddenly, what appeared to be a calculated maneuver seemed like an emotional blunder by someone not ready for center stage. Then, a dramatic flip. A right-of-center monitor group went over Jasmine's publicly released papers and delivered a definitive verdict. No classified material. No invasion of privacy. No abuse of process. Their verdict, all such assertions were political, not legal. That single sentence was borrowed across the country. And in between it all, Jasmine was calm, no interviews, no tweets, no public argumentation. She just continued to work, writing new accountability policies, meeting constituents, and not being goaded. When her young policy advisor, Jeremy, asked her why she didn't retaliate harder, she replied softly, "They want fire, but if I give them fire, it becomes all about me." And this was never about me. That line stuck because the more she remained steadfast, the more obvious the truth. She wasn't grandstanding, she was getting things done. In the background, however, the Trump team was panicking. What started out as a single call had escalated into a media blaze. Monday brought changing headlines. Jasmine was forgotten. Barron was. Every publication, podcast, and blog wanted to know the same thing. Why did he place that call? And was he alone? A Ledger Bay Times investigative piece, "The Accidental Fire Starter," portrayed Barron in sympathetic terms as an ardently devoted but green young man acting out emotion. Not all of the coverage was kind, however. The Hard Truth podcast charged him with brazenly attempting to criminalize a public official without cause, terming the action entitled and dangerous. Even late-night talk hosts got involved. On Night Frame, Curtis Rowland quipped, "So Jasmine reads financial reports, and Barron's reaction is to call the police like he misplaced his lunch money." It made people laugh, but the underlying message cut through. This wasn't going well for the Trumps. And Jasmine would not gloat. When her staff asked whether they should push back against the mounting outrage over Barron, she replied serenely, "We're not dragging him. We don't need to. This isn't about him." That self-control spoke volumes. Editorials nationwide, including a politically non-aligned St. Paul Independent editorial, lauded her as a paragon of calm during tumultuous times. And meanwhile, the spotlight moved once more, this time on Trump's lawyers. No subpoenas, no privacy suits, no lawsuits. Only a teenager's voice on a 911 line, now under national scrutiny. Then came another leak. The Kansas City Daily reported that Trump's advisors had warned against letting Barron make any public comment. The source claimed the family was caught off guard and frustrated, one insider even saying, "We've got bigger fires to put out." The fallout was swift. Poll numbers showed Jasmine gaining favor, even among moderate conservatives. One respondent from Iowa said she didn't throw punches. She showed receipts. That's how the job supposed to be done. And then, weeks later, after all the silence, Jasmine finally addressed the crowd at a humble Fort Worth community center. No glamour, no spotlight, only a small banner in the background that said, "Accountability is not optional." Journalists crammed into the sweltering room, waiting for her first public words since the hearing. She did not arrive with piles of paper or a blazing monologue. A handful of notes jotted on a blue legal pad. "I've read the headlines," she started, "and I want to make one thing absolutely clear. Every word I uttered in that hearing was intentional, documented, and within my scope of responsibilities." Her tone was not furious, it was resolute. The kind of quiet that outscreams indignation. "I'm not in the business of showmanship," she went on. "I'm in the business of truth." Speaking directly to Barron, but respectfully, she said, "He's young, he's passionate. I get loyalty to family, but facts are not attacks. Receipts are not revenge." Asked if the call was an act of political theatrics, she just replied, "I think it was a mistake. And I believe the people around him ought to have understood better than to make him take on the burden of defending that cannot be defended." The room fell silent. Another reporter inquired as to whether she'd seek legal recourse. "No," Jasmine replied. "That's not my lane. I'm here to create something better, not pursue distractions." She concluded by reiterating that every document she introduced was available to the public, every whistleblower source vetted. Government must be accountable to the people who pay for it. There were a few muted claps that escalated into an applause wave. Jasmine did not bask in it. She just smoothed out her notes and stood upright. Jasmine Crockett stood her ground at the mic, her voice steady, though unflinchingly strong. "I want to thank the lawyers who've testified, even those who don't agree with my politics, because the law can never be partisan." She delicately closed her folder, breathed in, and stepped back. A young reporter asked her what the toughest part had been. Jasmine hesitated. "Knowing that keeping it real still puts a target on your back," she said. "But you do it anyway because kids are watching. People who've never trusted power are waiting to see if someone will finally speak the truth." With that, she exited, no lingering. No spotlight chase, just a faint smile to the cheering crowd outside, holding signs like "Truth over fear" and "We've got your back." But while Jasmine was gaining ground in public, tensions inside Trump's Mar-a-Lago compound were mounting. Behind closed doors, the once loud halls had gone quiet. Inside a gilded study, Trump quietly viewed a playback of Jasmine's press conference. When Melania appeared, arms crossed, she delivered a bombshell. "You let in call." She was referring to Barron. He thought he was being helpful. She continued. Trump finally glanced away from the screen. He's not a child anymore. "Right," she said, and in that instant, internal disintegration commenced. Staffers hurried through phone records, not knowing who knew what. Nina Drexler, a straight-shooting lawyer, flew in from D.C. with a definitive verdict. Silence isn't working. Blame bounced from Barron's unauthorized call to weak messaging strategy to protocol briefing deficiency. Even Barron's cousin Owen conceded it. "We panicked. We weren't ready." Trump was left with no comeback. Drexler then dropped the bad news. Jasmine's proof was airtight and publicly sourced. Discrediting it would fail legally and politically. The one play remaining was diversion, but each try merely summoned additional tension to Jasmine's composed truth-telling. Next came the seismic shock. A conservative poll revealed that Jasmine's approval rating among voters under 35 had increased by 27 points, and that 1 in 5 swing district Republicans would welcome hearing more from her. Meanwhile, Barron disappeared from view. A nebulous family comment regarding privacy just fueled derision, creating memes and viral TikToks such as #Barron911, where kids joked, "Hello, police. She's lying again." While mayhem mounted on their side, Jasmine kept calm, no jabs, no teasing. Her self-control underscored their disintegration. On a peaceful dinner, her counselor Laurel leaned in softly. They boxed themselves in. Jasmine just said, "I just left the light on." But the tale did not end there. It went viral, outside of politics. A middle school civics teacher named Ruth Ellen Ford uploaded a 2-minute, chalk-dusted video applauding Jasmine for demonstrating real oversight to her students. It reached more than 3 million views in hours. And then the Avalanche veterans, nurses, mechanics, even ex-auditors started posting messages of solidarity. Activists in Minneapolis staged a pop-up event called Show Your Receipts, encouraging citizens to hold power to account. In Bakersfield, a retired accountant validated Jasmine's account in a blog post called "I Looked Them Up. She was right." In Philadelphia, Gen Z organizers initiated a crowdsourced repository of dubious contracts, the Crockett Ledger. Back in Fort Worth, Jasmine sat quietly reading through thousands of messages. One of the notes had read, "I was too scared to speak up in the workplace, but seeing you gave me second thoughts." Jasmine had glanced up and whispered, "This isn't even about me anymore," and she was correct. Donations rolled in $5 here, $300 there. The site crashed twice due to traffic. Volunteers had been added, staff members had been employed, and what followed? Nobody saw it coming. Jasmine Crockett didn't give a speech, she ignited something larger. Stepping back from the podium, closing. Her folder with calm purpose, her last words rang with conviction. The law shouldn't be partisan. Shortly after, she explained to a young journalist the toughest part wasn't the scrutiny, it was knowing the truth still puts a target on your back. But you say it anyway, because children are listening. Outside, groups waved truth over fear signs, cheering. But while her words reached ears all over the country, they were causing hushed bedlam behind Mar-a-Lago's golden walls. Trump, stuck on a rerun of her press conference, remained frozen as Melania delivered the bomb. Barron had. The action that ensued made that light impossible to overlook. A civics instructor's earnest tweet caught fire. Veterans, nurses, teen all joined in, sharing, authenticating, fact-checking. A former accountant even created the Crockett Ledger to monitor crooked deals, and Gen Z activists demanded accountability like never before. Yet Jasmine never tried to own it. When offered a national stage at a town hall, she turned it down. "I'm not a performer," she said. "I'm a witness. That's enough." But then came one quiet interview in a small Denton, Texas PBS studio. No press pit, no glamour. When asked what she felt when Barron called the police on her, she didn't lash out. "I thought about my nephew," she said. "Barron's just a kid trying to protect family. That's not evil. That's human." But she didn't excuse. The system. We've taught kids that accountability is attack. That's backward. That one line so raw and real hit like thunder. Soon, classrooms quoted her, journalists cited her, and civic groups launched initiatives in her name. Students in Sacramento built the Crockett Fellowship. Teenagers in Tulsa examined her hearing as a study of democracy. Jasmine did not trademark her name or create merchandise. She simply continued to do the work. Asked months later what moment shifted everything, she did not nod toward cameras or headlines. She unfolded a creased, worn letter from a 13-year-old girl in Fargo. You didn't look scared. You look sure. I want to know like that someday. That was the essence of it all, not to bring someone down, but to stand someone else up. The news cycle would move on. Barron's call would be overshadowed by the next viral distraction. But Jasmine's lesson that truth remains relevant, even when it is unpopular, would last. She didn't just stand her ground. She showed us what ground is for. And occasionally, one consistent voice is enough to pierce the din so the rest of us can at last hear one another. If this tale resonated something within you, something regarding truth, power, or courage, don't let this be where it stops. Share it. Discuss it. And subscribe for additional tales about the individuals who influence the world, not with noise, but with conviction.